Epic of Gilgamesh. Have you heard of this?
Yes. Isn't that where, some well, you want to talk? I might, talk so much that I get the facts.
Please feel free to jump in.
Well, no, isn't it where they say the flood myth of the Genesis may have got its inspiration from?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'll tell you. Like,
All right.
I mean, it maybe there's a lot
there a
of
flood myth
there's a
in
lot
it?
of stuff in Gilgamesh that has inspired a lot of other stories. Obviously it's the oldest work of notable literature that remains. So it's the oldest work that we kind of know about. The only and it's considered the second oldest religious text because So the oldest religious text is the pyramid texts, which are basically just written on the walls of tombs and tell people how to conduct the rituals that allow the souls onto the next realm. But the Epic of Gilgamesh was a story, so it's the first thing that we can consider like a myth or a legend, or the first notable literary thing that we put down. And the funny thing about it is, so it's about a few things, right? Like a few things happen in it. But at one stage, it's about 9 people who go on a journey to a volcano to destroy a dangerous idol. And that's my fact.
At one point in the Epic of Gilgamesh, 9 people go on a voyage to destroy a dangerous idol
In a volcano, yeah.
in a volcano.
Yeah.
So it's got various chapters, this thing.
Well,
eh?
does that story?
Epic.
Yeah, it's an epic. Does that story ring a bell at all, Ryan? That kind of idea. We say a fellowship of 9. Yeah.
This is terrible, but I'm not very au fait with The Lord of the Rings. I have read The Hobbit,
Well, you knew it well enough. As soon as I said the fellowship, you
and I
knew.
watched the first movie, I think.
It's a lot of walking, Ryan. It's a lot of walking. Book 3, I read it when I was in standard 5 and I had pneumonia. So I got to stay at home from school. And book 3 was, it's essentially just walking. It's just Frodo and Sam slogging their way through terrible terrain, ultimately to try and throw this ring in Mount Doom. But yeah, that's what the Epic of Gilgamesh, there is a piece in the Epic of Gilgamesh that is about that.
That's what you're saying. That's your fact, eh?
I'm saying, well, it's not about that specifically, but it is about nine men who go on a journey to throw an idol into a volcano.
Do I want to throw the idol into the volcano?
Yeah, they do. Just kind of like Lord of the Rings.
Well, I'm saying that's false. It's a lie.
And why do you believe that? You're not sure. You just read me.
Yeah, I'm guessing, but it's fascinating. Idolatry, false idol. Obviously, I'm well versed, being religious, that the idolatry thing was very much Ten Commandments thing. So maybe back then they wouldn't have been too fazed by idols. They'd have been more like pro-idols. That's why maybe I'm thinking...
Pro-idol sounds like a very bad TV show for prostitutes. Definitely Gareth Cliff would be one of the judges. No doubt about it. Anyway, so you're saying it's false.
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Yes.
That is false. It is in fact
Really?
false. Yeah. No,
Right.
I kicked off the show with a lie because I realized I didn't lie at all last week. So I figured I had to
You
make
didn't lie
up for
about
that.
sex.
Not a thing. Yeah. So I figured I have to kick this off with a bit of a lie. It's true. There are a lot of stories that are inspired by the Epic of Gilgamesh, and there are in fact truths that kind of come out of the Epic of Gilgamesh that then run through stories that pop up in other places of the world. Beowulf in England, England's oldest kind of literary story, has echoes of Gilgamesh in it.
Wow.
But yeah, I can actually I've written down a kind of quick synopsis here.
Yes.
But yeah, it's essentially 2 halves, the Epic of Gilgamesh. The first half of the story discusses Gilgamesh, who's the king of the Uruk, which interestingly, in the Lord of the Rings, there are the Uruk-hai, right? But and Enkidu, who's this like wild man who was created by the gods to actually stop Gilgamesh and to destroy him for oppressing the people of Uruk. And then Enkidu, who's supposed to slay Gilgamesh, goes and he becomes civilized through a kind of sexual initiation ritual. And he goes to slay him and he challenges him and they fight and Gilgamesh wins. And then afterwards they actually go on and they become good buddies and they go on a series of kind of adventures together.
Wow.
And they make this 6-day journey to the legendary cedar forest where they want to slay the guardian of the forest called Humbaba the Terrible. And they want to chop down this big cedar tree. And that particular part of the story was an inspiration for the Studio Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke. one of the inspirations. I don't know if you know a lot about Studio Ghibli, but judging by the blank look on your face, the answer is no. But yeah, then what happens is the goddess Ishtar decides to defend Humbaba and sends the bull of the heaven to punish Gilgamesh. And also for kind of spurning her advances. Apparently she tried to come on to him. And then Gilgamesh and Enkidu kill the bull of the heaven, after which the gods decide to sentence Enkidu to death, and they kill him. And that's the first half of the book. So now Gilgamesh's buddy is dead. So what happens is in the second half, because he's messed up over Enkidu's death, Gilgamesh goes on this really long and perilous journey to find find immortality, the secret to immortality.
Gee whiz.
So this kind of starts getting echoes in Jason and the Argonauts, for example, right? Those are these kind of like Hercules, these sort of challenges to try and go on. And at the end of the book, he eventually learns that, and this is a quote, "Life, which you look for, you will never find. For when the gods created man, they let death be his share and life withheld in their own hands." So there you are. So it's basically, I suppose, about free will versus the control of the gods.
Gee
but there you are. Yeah, it comes from Mesopotamia, the
Yes.
Epic of Gilgamesh, and it
Yes.
is estimated to be about from about 2,100 BC.
Wow.
So roughly 4,100 years old.
Wow, that's
yeah.
incredible.
Really, really old story. And that's kind of, as I say, the beginning of written mythology.
Yeah, I've seen, one theory is that the Old Testament was formed after the Babylonian exile, and that a lot of the origins stories were very much influenced by the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's one theory.
It's quite interesting how origin stories sometimes sort of echo each other.
Yeah.
I read recently that the Japanese origin story is quite interesting because it starts with particles hanging in nothingness. And then the particles slowly start to form together, and the lighter particles go up and they form the heavens, and the heavier ones come down and they form kind of earth. But what's interesting about that is that's actually what happened. There was a big explosion, and then the particles did kind of come together to form the suns and the stars and the planets and things. And so ultimately their creation mythology, there was nothingness and particles within it that slowly formed together to create the universe as we know it. Is surprisingly accurate.
This is great.
I mean, a lot of nonsense happens thereafter, but yeah, for a
Is that
starter,
sort
it's
of
not
Shinto stuff, perhaps?
I don't know. I just know that's kind of. I mean, this is the kind of mythology that leads to the divine right of the emperor, and ultimately, through there's gods that kind of come up when the heavens get formed, and then new gods come up when the earth gets formed, and then there's other gods that, and it starts getting a lot more traditional after that. But
Wow.
I was just kind of interested that the start of it was so